Right, I'm Chris Knowles, and I'm here with Republican candidate Will Campbell. He's running for Texas House District 109, is that correct?
Yep, District 109.
And who is also one of our veterans. And brother, thank you again so much for your service. And matter of fact, I'm again a little, I want to say prejudiced whenever it comes to our military because I come from a military family. So could you kind of give us a little bit of a backdrop on that and kind of let everybody know kind of who you are and where you came from, and let them get familiar with you.
Yeah. So I grew up, I was born actually on the island of Galveston, down in South Texas. Grew up in and around Houston, Spring, Tomball area down there. We ended up moving to Beaumont, lived a little bit in a little town called Wimberley, just outside of Austin. Lived in Lake Travis for a little bit, but we ended up, my high school years were in Wimberley. So I graduated from there. From there, that was, post 9/11. Iraq had just started, and I just felt the call to service, and so I wanted to go and fight, and so I joined the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, I went infantry. They tried to get me to go intel because of my ASVAB score and all that stuff, but I didn't want that. I wanted to go and hunt bad guys and pull triggers. And so that's what I did, and served for 10 years in the infantry. Went to Iraq and Afghanistan. I was in Operation Phantom Fury, the invasion of the city of Fallujah. We then did Operation Mountain Lion. So you might be familiar with Marcus Luttrell. When his team got hit out there shortly after that, because there was a whole group of them up in the mountains there. Our operation was to do shaping operations to force them on the one location, and then we did a massive airborne operation to go into the mountains there and push them all out. That was Operation Mountain Lion in 2006. Did several other things. I've trained about 1,600 Marines, about 600 or so foreign law enforcement and military, and infantry tactics, techniques, and procedures. That's kind of where I started my teaching in my life and my passion and love for teaching. But ended up injuring both my hips throughout all that wild and craziness. That's what ended with my medical discharge, honorable discharge, of course. But so from there, I had to figure out life, figure out what to do. I was married, had 4 babies at that time. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, and had to figure out what to do. So we ended up. I was stationed in California. That's where I met my wife. We lived up there, and I got to experience the wonderful world of red flagging. So in that time, PTS was a big thing. I don't say PTSD because it's not a disorder. It's handling stress. There's disorders that come from it, right? That's a whole other subject. But so from all that, couldn't find work. I was just going to college. I was getting my degree in business management at the time. Trying to find work out there was impossible. So eventually I always joke around and say my wife saw the light to move to Texas. So we moved back here.
It is the promised land, by the way.
Yes,
so you know.
Yes, it is. And so we moved back up here, had an investment from my time on active duty that came back well, so I started my own business, gave that a go while I was attending Dallas Baptist University. And then fortunately couldn't get past that first year, right? Had lots of lessons learned, but man, it was a great experience. So I ended up going into the plumbing trade as a plumber's apprentice. Did that for a little while, went from being a plumber's apprentice to a server on the service side of the house. And then from there, ended up becoming a project manager, working on our glass and glazing side of the house, and just got to know basically the whole world of construction during that time. So in that time, I'm getting $17 an hour, taking care of my wife and 4 kids, and just living out that experience, dealing with rent and all that kind of stuff. So I've been there, done that. Ended up completing my degree programs and doing all that stuff, and I actually got hired to go and be a facilities manager for a nationwide hotelier. So I ended up going from doing that to running 400 locations nationwide for facilities management, having 6 regional managers under my charge, just multitudes of property maintenance guys, and running that whole program. So I got into the world of facilities management, ended up really enjoying it. Then from there was the lockdowns during COVID, and so that hit us hard. And because of those lockdowns, I got let go with another 100 people from the corporate office. So couldn't find a job, so I started my own again. Started doing contract work for just like remodels and renovations and things of that nature. And then ended up getting hired on with the company I'm with right now as a VP of operations, running the company. We started with 6 people about 6 years, going on 7 years ago now. And I think we're about to breach, I think we're close to 40 employees now. Nice. Really have grown a lot. It's been great working with everybody, doing software development, working with universities and cities to take care of their facilities and their assets. And so I consult with them. I create software to help them get all that under control and managing the teams in the company and doing all that. So that's me in a nutshell. It's a very big nutshell, but it's a nutshell.
But it sounds like you know both sides of the coin. You've been down in the trenches, so to speak, no pun intended, but also been up in the office, kind of calling the shots as well. Yep. Sounds like. Yep.
So that's the American dream, right? It's that process of starting out. We all start out with nothing. But we all have the ability to move up to do whatever we set our mind to do and that we want to pursue. It's that pursuit that is the American dream. It's not the finishing product.
So why politics?
Well, the first time I voted, I was in Iraq. And I voted for Bush at that time because he was the one that was going to get us into Fallujah. The other guy, whoever he was going to take us out of Iraq. We wanted to go into Fallujah because the Iranians were there, the Chechens were there, and all the other guys were there that killed our guys. There was a large IED blast that killed 10 of our Marines that were there. And that was a big thing back home, evidently. I found out later on. Of course, I wasn't here to know. But that was what set off the official, we're going to go in. And so we wanted to go in. And so all of us voted for Bush in that time. So that was my first time voting. But coming back, when you're out in the military for 10 years, especially during that time, you're just on deployment all the time. So coming back home, and then my last few years in, I was a combat instructor, so I was actually able to stay home for a while. And just listening to the news and everything that was going on in that time, this is 2011, 2012 time frame, and just seeing what was happening to the military back home just drove me up the walls. And it was all the politics at the time. We had a bunch of legislatures that were getting our guys killed on the ground out there because they want to try to police us as we're doing our work and just trying to finish the job out there. We had to deal with all that nonsense, and then coming back home, seeing in the media they're lying about us. When I was in Fallujah, I learned when I got back home that they were suggesting my unit, evidently I didn't realize that we were in the video, were killing civilians and burying them in shallow graves. Well, no, that wasn't the case. That was the enemy. They were burying their own guys in the shallow graves of homes that they took over after killing the civilians themselves that have the house. But we were the ones that were getting blamed for it. So I see all that going on, and it just drove me nuts. So I stayed, I haven't been like running for office or doing all that, but I've always paid attention to politics from California, coming out here. But I started in Cedar Hill. That's when I kind of made the choice. I finally had a job where I had a little bit of freedom and I had a little bit of extra time. So the school board was going to try to pass a bond a few years back, it was like 2019, right before COVID hit. And so I wanted to get involved. I wanted to be involved in my community and actually start participating in this stuff instead of complaining about it all the time, right? So they were trying to do the bond. I went to go push for it. That was Cedar Hill, hadn't had a bond in like 20-something years. The schools were falling apart. You could actually see the need for it. And I care about our public schools. So I wanted to see them get a bond. And at that time, if we passed the bond, it wouldn't have changed our property taxes at all. So absolutely, why would we not want to take care of them and get it done? So that was a fight. I got to experience both sides of the world of school bonds and dealing with all that. But then from there, to try to get the bond passed, the school board election was coming up. And there was a lady that was running that was just adamantly opposed to it, did not want to do it. So I threw my hat in the ring to say, hey, I'll run for the school board just for the sake of making sure she doesn't get on there because the rest of the folks on the board want to get it done. And so I got to run it for office. I did fairly well in that election, but it ended up being a three-way split. And another lady that was a friend of ours, she ended up getting elected, so it was great. But the bond, unfortunately, didn't pass, right? So there's an example. But that was my first kind of foray into the world of it. Things got busy from that, but then come along with this election and everything coming up and just seeing where everything's at, some of the frustrations with Austin, all of our frustrations with Congress. I was like, okay, lots of prayer, lots of consideration. I was like, you know what? I'll give it a go. Let me throw my hat in the ring. I got called from the DCRP. They were looking for folks to run. I was like, all right, I'll do it.
And let me ask you this. And of course, you're talking from the battlefield to the ballot box here, okay?
Yeah.
Which, and no offense, but oftentimes seen as the same.
Yeah, right.
It is. It's you were talking about leadership, people you were under at the time, presidents. Disagreeing with some of the decisions that were made, but still you endured, you fought, and again, thank you very much for your service.
I enjoyed it.
But I heard your speech right before this, and you had some very strong positions on taxes, property taxes, things like that, which I know within congressional, House, all that, it's going to be an extreme battle. How are you going to approach that I mean, if you get voted in, how are you going to approach that and share with everybody your ideas on this? Because it's very interesting to me. I'm sure anybody that owns property or is having to pay those taxes that you're talking about right now, their ears are going to perk up whenever you start talking about this. So how are you going to approach that?
So when we had the vote to have the constitutional amendment to abolish property taxes at the state level, it was an 80-20 issue. It was like an 80-something% victory. So the motivation with the people is there. It's going to take a constitutional amendment to actually abolish property taxes. And there's other taxes that are a part of the constitutional amendment I have on there. But it's on my website, willcampbellfortexas.com, where you can actually go and read it yourself. I've got it all drafted up and ready to go. Now, the political will to eliminate property taxes is there. It's only there for one party, and that's one of our planks as the Republican Party, is to finally eliminate property taxes and replace it. So there's a lot of people that want to try to they're just going out flat out lying. We just got to call it what it is. Suggesting that we just want to eliminate property taxes, taking all the money away from the ISDs and everybody else. No, that's false. We have to replace it because the entirety of our state is built on this system. And it's a terrible system, it's corrupt, we have no involvement. We as the voters, as the people that are there, we may have representation, but we don't get to control the taxes. And that's kind of the whole point of the representation, right? So there's a political will there to eliminate property taxes. And there's also that in the House and in the Senate under Republican control to finally get the job done. But the thing has been for all this time, everybody's heard about eliminate property taxes. We hear it reiterated all the time. Nobody had the plan. So I'm not trying to toot my horn here on it or anything. It's just, that's what I've always been hired to do. That's why I have the job I have. Whenever something needs to get done, they tell me, I go get it done. That's what's made me successful.
Well, help me out with this. Help me out with this, because Joe Citizen out there paying property taxes, a lot of them don't really understand what their property taxes go towards other than to put new turf on the football field, okay? All right, so whenever you're talking about eliminating those property taxes and knowing that those taxes go into certain entities like that, how is that going to translate into eventually paying for those? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what do we replace it with?
What do we replace it with?
Right. So currently our sales tax system that we have, it's a good system. If you go and look at the history of the revenues that we generated at the state level over the last decade or so, including during the time under COVID, it has been steadily increasing over time, while the rate has remained the same. All right, so that's the key benefit. As the economy grows, as the government's doing what it's supposed to be doing and allowing all of us to have our freedom to grow and to succeed, then so too will that revenue grow. The government gets rewarded when it does the right thing, as it should be. It's not the case now. But that sales tax is only on about 20% of the sales that go on in the state of Texas. So that's why it's as high as it is, even though we are getting a pretty good revenue stream from it. We're only taxed at 20%. That other 80% of all those transactions that occur don't get taxed, right? And they're all the good old boy network connections of the last couple of decades of the sales tax being around. All these companies coming in and doing all the taxpayer-funded lobbying, all that stuff to get exempted. So what this proposal does is it's getting rid of property taxes, but it's flipping the script on that. To where now we're going to tax 80% of all the sales activity that goes on. And that 20% that is exempt is our cost of living. So what it takes to be just a resident of Texas, be a citizen here, living here, your standard living expenses are the things that are exempted. Like right now, you don't pay any sales taxes on your groceries. That gets retained. We're just going to extend that out. No more tax at the pump. You got 20 cents per gallon of the price that you pay is a tax, right? And then there's even more at the federal level, but that's a whole other discussion. But getting rid of that and replacing it with just a flat sales tax on all commercial use of it, but for cost of living, for just our regular everyday stuff, gas at the pump, groceries, healthcare, education, including professional education that is exempted. You got to have that in order to succeed. And other things that are exempted. So what that does, in short, we've got about $8 trillion worth of regular economic activity that goes on in the state of Texas, right? That's not GDP, that's something different. That's the resulting product of it. That doesn't count everything in between. So researching federal data, state data, Fed data from the Federal Reserve, it's about $8 trillion or so. When you account for the cost of living, that drops it down to about $7.1 trillion, give or take. So what that means, if we were to take, it's a $203 billion, I believe it was, for 2025, was all the property tax and sales tax collections altogether, about $203.5 billion. So when you do the math, the 7.1 to that 203, I've added a 10% buffer on there, right? You got economic fluctuation, so we want to make sure there's a buffer that's built in. Comes out to 3.25% as the new starting rate for the sales tax system that will replace the property tax system, and that'll bring in about $235 billion. Now, we already have a tiered system, right? We have the state 6.25, and then cities and counties can make up that last 2%. What this plan does is break it out into 5. You have your state, your county, your city, your ISD, and your special districts. Each one gets a sub-rate of that total 3.25. Now, that's just the starting rate. Constitutionally, in the amendment, it will be capped at 6%, cannot go over 6. So at that point, at that starting rate, that covers basically every single taxing entity in the state of Texas, all of their property tax and sales tax, if applicable, from 2025. Now, if we get the constitutional amendment passed in the next legislative session, it then goes to the voters, they pass it, it'd be 2029 that it would go into effect. The last property tax would be paid in 2028, and that's when everything gets launched. So it'd be based off of that baseline that year, what that amount is. So when you put all that together, what that means is that everybody's rates, everybody gets covered. There's about 133 entities that are currently kind of struggling. So they still kind of struggle under this one, but there's a plan that's in place for a transition. All that's on my website. There's a whole thing about it. But that's how you replace the system, and that's how you make it to where from that, only way the tax goes up, the rate goes up, is with voter approval for that city. So cities start out at 0.6. If they want to go up, they can't exceed the constitutional cap. But if they need to increase it to 0.64, let's say, maybe they just come up just slightly short, they go to the voters to do that. If the voters say no, well, guess what, city? You need to reduce your budget. So we all know we ain't got a revenue problem. It's a spending problem we all have, and we all recognize that. We all tell our cities, hey, you need to get your budget under control. That's how we do it.
Now, obviously, taxes are a hot button topic.
Yes.
But you touched on another one in your speech just a moment ago about personal privacy as far as personal information.
Yeah.
And your ideas or your thoughts on combating that, keeping it private, keeping it away from, say, like your social media outlets, taking those identities and using them in different places, or selling different entities. Yeah. Kind of fill us in on that, your ideas on that, if you would. Yeah,
so I've got on my website, you go to Protecting Truth and Identity Act. This one's a lot simpler than the taxes. So, so the idea is we're going to extend your property rights to cover your data, content, identity, image, and likeness. Your DCIL is like best acronym I could come up with. But the idea is every time you touch your computer and you create something, as it stands right now, unless you actually get it copywritten or it goes to publishing or something else like that, it's technically not your property. Now, there are protections in general that are currently there that are not very strong. So if somebody actually gets the stuff off your computer, you can't really take the guy to court and claim theft. And that guy can take your stuff and do whatever they want to with it. Right. So the idea is to extend your property rights to anything you create or that your activity online, for example, creates about you is your data. That is your property. So now we've got a lot of laws that make sure they let you know, here's what we're going to do with your data and all that. But that's all it is, right? They're just telling you, no, we're going to have your data. It's ours. We're going to do with it these things. Now you know. But too bad. You don't get compensated. They do whatever it is that they want. Then whoever has that, they do whatever they want. Then whoever gets it from them, they do whatever they want. That's why we get 50,000 spam calls every day, right? So the idea here is if it's your property now, they have to go into a contract agreement with you in order to use it if they want to. Now, for example, there's a lot of problems with people seeing AI using their personal images. Maybe they post a video up online. Somebody will take and use AI to alter it to make it appear as though you're doing something you're not, or saying things that you haven't. Yeah. So whenever those events occur, and it's not with your image and likeness is not being used with your permission, then you can go after that person and actually take them to court to have it taken down. Right now, people in power, people in positions of influence, they have the ability and the financial ability, frankly, to actually take people to court to get that stuff taken down. But average Joe Schmo, you and I, we don't. This bill gives you the power and the ability to do that. And it'll actually establish a court system that's dedicated to it, so it becomes a streamlined process. There's requirements for websites and ISPs on how they have to do it. But it's intended for that purpose, is that you now actually have standing to go after big corporate entities, big companies, big media companies. Maybe there's a local story that you're somehow involved in, and they tell something that they heard from somebody else. Like, no, that is not true at all. You can now go and hold that media company accountable, provide them the evidence that shows what you posted is false, and if they don't take it down, you have standing to force them to take it down and publish a correction. We don't have that right now. Media wants to go out and say whatever they want to about you, they will. And you can go out there and cry about it all you want, but they can keep it up there as long as they want. Lord knows we saw a lot of that during all the COVID stuff. Yeah. But this bill will give you and every individual Texan standing to go after them and actually get it taken down and force them to go out and publish the truth. Because the truth is what matters. And that's why it's called the Protecting Truth and Identity Act.
Let me ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
And I know this is personal to you.
Yeah.
And please, I don't want you to feel obligated to share anything that's personal, okay? Yeah. But I think you know where I'm going with this. The area that we live in right now, especially here in South Dallas, yeah. We've got not just homeless issue, but within the homeless community, mental health issue. Yeah. And we're seeing it, unfortunately, run a little bit more, I want to say heavier in numbers here in the past several years. Yeah. But you brought something out to me just right before this, yeah. Talking about a plan that you had, something that you're wanting to ride up. Would you mind sharing with us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I've got quite the laundry list of bills I'm writing up right now. But so on this plan that I have, I'm trying to figure it out because this one's tricky. But it's a plan for mental health institutions, actually bringing that back. So my opponent has gotten some bills related to paying mental health professionals. So her bill is about paying the professionals, but not doing anything for our access to it. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to change that. It's good that we want to help people pay their student loans and stuff, but I'm pretty sure psychotherapists, as we're all aware, make pretty doggone good money. They can handle their own bills. For mental health, for my brother, he passed away here recently, and he struggled with mental illness, and we all knew it, and we tried to do the things that we could as family to get him on the right path, but unfortunately, it ended up having him be sent to prison. And so down here in South Dallas, that is a big problem. There's a lot of recidivism that goes on in the prison system, and it's not just due to actual legitimate criminal activity, but in many cases, it's also due to people who struggle with mental illness, who can't have control over it. They don't even know they have it. They go and do something that we sit there and view as foolish and stupid, but it's just them acting out the illness that they have. And so they end up going to prison, and it just gets worse. And whenever they get out, they end up getting involved in drugs or in something else. Somebody wants to use and abuse them, and they end up right back in there, but after they get involved with drugs. And those drugs will only amplify their conditions, and it's a cycle that never ends. So what I want to bring back is the ability that as an alternative sentence for individuals that are doing nonviolent crimes, and for certain violent crimes like minor assault, bar fights, things of that nature. But when it's clear that there's a mental illness present, making there be a requirement for a mental illness evaluation, and it's clear that that's the case, the alternative is instead of going to prison, your sentence becomes being institutionalized to seek mental health. There's already tons of programs that are out there that are voluntary, where they go in and under dedicated help, and it's helped out thousands of people across the state. I've met many of them in many different church ministries and programs that have given them the avenue once they completed the program to be able to go and talk. There's Celebrate Recovery. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Sir. It's a great program that can be brought into it, and supporting with Mike Imler, who's running for county judge, and what he wants to bring up from San Antonio. There's a lot of really good programs there that can get tied into this as well. So that instead of just simply being sent to prison for a crime that they committed because they have a condition they can't control, and then just being thrown back out in the streets to try to scrap up and figure it out, only to have a relapse, like, we can end that. There's a way to do it. But because of the history related to it, it makes it hard.
Yeah.
So if we had that program in hand, my brother would still be alive today. And that's what makes it so important to me. It's something that I think here in South Dallas County can help prevent a lot of the, just the recidivism that goes on in the prison system down here, where people can actually get the help that they need, and have that actually be a part of the Texas judicial system and our prison systems in order to improve that and make the changes that we all want to see. So it's a work in progress.
I think that affects more people than what we realize. But
yeah.
All right. Last thing. Somebody's walking up to the polls, getting ready to vote. What do you want them to know about you before they cast that vote?
The one thing you need to know about me is, in my history, people have hired me and have put me on things because they know if they have me selected to go and do it, I will get the job done. When it comes to running for office now, I represent you. The bills and things I've created are from people who came up and told me we have this problem. I said, okay, let me figure it out. And I made the bill. I went down to the convention. The convention voted and made these priorities. Okay, I made the bills. They're all on there to answer every one of those priorities. If you come to me, anybody in HD 109 comes to me and says, we have this problem, how do we fix this? If there's a means to do it by law, then I will get it done. Now, helping out with protecting property rights and heirs. That was from a lady over in DeSoto that's currently in that fight right now for her family's property. It's been, I think she said, it's been 6 years now that she's been fighting this fight. She hasn't even been able to go get her father's personal effects, all because of the probate court system here in Dallas County, right? I've got that bill drawn up to directly address that problem because she reached out to me. That's what we're supposed to do as representatives. And that's what every single one of the candidates up and down the ballot, and that includes Jayla Godbolt as well. She's running for Justice of the Peace down here for 1-2. She's outstanding, and she works exactly, she's out there running around all over the place talking with people to hear from them. So for myself, whenever, what I would say to everybody, whenever you go to the polls, think about that. Who is actually going to listen to you and directly address the problem that you have? And I would recommend it's Republicans all the way down the ticket. We are here to listen to you. We are out here campaigning to get your vote because we want to know what you need so that we can actually get it done when it comes to the next couple of years if you vote for us this November.
Well, thanks for your time, bro.
I appreciate
it very much.
Thank you.